Hey, good afternoon. Almost good evening. I'm here at my friend and student Sanjay's Yogashala. Today I taught a workshop on Breath Bandhas Drishti, which I've taught in many different locations and several times in each location. And it's usually very popular, but what I'm realizing is I started expressing myself very differently, speaking more about the energy of the situation, the energy of the body, the energy of the practice, moving prana, this kind of thing. But just a few moments ago, Sanjay and I were talking while we were having chai, and I realized, I think for the first time in my whole teaching career, which I have been teaching Ashtanga Yoga since 2002, so that's 23 years. I think for the first time in all of that time, over 2 decades, that I'm actually teaching yoga in a way that people are meant to use it for themselves and transform themselves, transform their whole life. What do I mean by that? I think before, when Sharath was alive, and when I was not even after I was authorized, before I was authorized, but after I started going to India, I've been teaching yoga in a way to get people prepared to go to India so that they could also then practice with my teacher. And this morning, I realized while we were discussing, some of the students and I were having a discussion, and then we went to have South Indian food afterwards. I realized that I'm teaching this for you, to you, for you, to learn how to enhance your life, to learn how to build your energy, build your Shakti, and live a more fulfilled and activated life. Because once the energy, the Shakti, the Kundalini, the Prana gets moving, gets activated and starts traveling through the body, it's traveling outside the body, moving, and you can feel it. Then when you have a normal, everyday, what we would call mundane experience, it will no longer be a normal, mundane experience, because there's going to be this different level of energy coming to the experience with you. What does that mean? When you're seeing things with your energy at a lull, and the energy is basically what we would call God. Okay? You're used to that. You don't notice it so much. It becomes the norm. Your eyes get tired and you start wearing glasses. Your ears get tired and you start using hearing aids to hear properly. Your digestion shifts and you start gaining weight. But something happens when you start doing yogic practices. And when I mean yogic practices, I don't just mean asana. I also mean pranayama. I also mean what we would term tantric practices, mantra, mudra, using yantra, all these different things. They start to activate the energy that is stored in the body and move it around. And you have a different experience of life, because say the little piece of God that's living inside you, your soul, you want to call it, your Atman, they call it in India. Pattabhi used to point here and say, in here, box, sitting in the box is Atman. Turn your awareness there. That is yoga. Because once you turn your awareness there, you start to wake him up. You start to wake it up, her up, whatever you want to call it. It is not a male or female, it is Shakti, it is energy. is the energy of God. So when you wake up, the deity that lives inside you and brings it to play in your daily life, you have a different level of consciousness, a different level of awareness, a different level of your seeing, your sight is different, your speech is different, your speech has different power behind it, you can hear better, your pores open up, you can feel at a different level, and it changes your life. And you have to find a way to deal with that, and that way to deal with that becomes what yoga is that finding that union between the energetic, the spiritual, and the physical. It's all there together anyway. It is in union. We segregate it, and we have to learn how to allow it to stay in union and have this bigger experience of life. But because this bigger experience of life is so intense for people, intense is probably the right word, because we're not trained to live at this level. People who meditated, like say in the US in the 50s and 60s, mostly the 60s, when people started meditating, because they had learned about yogis from India. And they started getting this heightened level of awareness. That's when the revolution started, because you're having a revolution inside yourself, and you want to see that change happen in the world around you, and you want to live in a world that is full of that change. This is how I teach yoga. This is how I want to teach yoga. I want it to be about waking up that God lives inside you, so that you have a more full existence. When you have that at the forefront of your being, when you have a lover, eventually a husband or wife, then children, you are at a different level with them, and they feel it. People know that you're bringing that to it, and maybe that inspires them to try and bring it to the plate also. When you're raising your children, they see my dad has all this energy. My mom, she doesn't have to sleep so much. She's really got she's a very powerful person. I want to be like that when I grow up. And I'm not saying I'm this big fancy guy who's doing this stuff. What I'm saying is, for the first time, I think I've said it before in these videos, that that's my goal. But I think now I have had the realization that that's what I'm doing. I am putting my personal energy, my personal prana, my personal shakti into what I'm doing, so that I encompass this, I hold the space of the room with this level of vibration, with this level of frequency, so that you can feel that and are maybe inspired by that. And then when you have the experience, you understand that you are waking yourself up, becoming awake to the fact that the God lives in this body also. Devi lives in this body also. God, Devi, whatever you want to call that energy that is the creation of the universe. It's also in here. It's a very interesting place to be. But it's a taller order than what I was doing before. I think it will appeal to a lesser amount of people. That's why my student base is smaller. I have students in Germany, some in America, and different places that I've taught for years. But the level that I hold myself at is not super appealing to people, because what happens when you get to that level is you start to allow the old parts of your life to fall away, and you have to. You can't hold on to it, because it will cause a ruckus in your life. Then when you get to something that you know is no longer serving you, and you're trying to let it go, and it won't go, you kind of have to find a way to destroy it. And I don't mean in a soft way. Sometimes you have to pull out a bomb and blow the fucker up. Sometimes, as depicted in Hindu Shastra, you have to be the Devi with the khadga and cut off the head of the demon. The demon is inside you. The demons are only inside you. And they're yours. They're little pieces of your ego, little pieces of your personality. And sometimes you have to grab one by the hair and cut its head off. You see Kali holding a head by the hair, and the head's there and dripping blood. That's figurative, but it's also quite literal. Once you cut off the heads of these demons and their life force is coming out, their life's blood, the rakta, is coming out, only then can your kundalini be stimulated to move all through everything, because as one head gets cut off, then the next, you start to find more space in your body, because those heads are blocks in your chakras, in your energy system in your body. Once those blocks are removed or lessened, then the energy can flow. And you feel it. Sorry, the power went out, so now the fan gets loud because it's on a UPS box. So I'll stop right there. Just think about that. I'm looking to start teaching more again. I want to find a permanent place to teach in one location, and people who want to study with me can practice there. I'm going to be teaching in Mysore a little bit privately. I'm open to going and traveling to places and teach also, but I'm kind of ready to start doing this for a living and making a living doing it, and inspiring people to want to be awake within their own existence, within their life. It's a tall order, and it might be a smaller number of people who take that call. But that's okay, because it's coming from my spirit, it's coming from my heart, and it's what I have to do. I don't need to teach large numbers of people. There are tons of Ashtanga teachers who teach large numbers of people. I need to teach those who are ready for that level of transformation, that level of letting go of the outer sheath of their being that's covering the light that lives inside them. That's what I'm ready for. The question is, are you ready for it? Have a great night. Ciao.